the strategy behind actually attracting the most amount of buyers possible.
You want them to have a blank canvas, but enough of an interest there to be able to bring them in and get excited about your property.
When they walk into a home and it's customized to that person, either they love or hate it. And that's a risk.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and I have spoken with a lot of real estate agents this year who have shared their wisdom on this podcast. And today I have compiled for you some of their top home selling advice, from how to prepare your home to sell to how to get the greatest ROI and why it's so important to work with a real estate agent. If you're selling your home or thinking of selling your home soon, this is a must listen for you. So without further ado, let's get into their top home selling advice.
Well, when you're starting out thinking about making a move, there's the 3 P's. You need to purge, you need to prepare, and then you need to price it right. And if you focus on those things as you're getting ready to put your home on the market, you're going to have success. But the preparation, I think a lot of times the public doesn't understand how much work it is to get ready for a sale. You don't have to have your house look house perfection necessarily, but you want it to be put in its best light. So most of the time, how we live in a house and how we sell a house, those are 2 different things. So when I come out and talk to people, initially we're going to be talking about editing out their house, purging things that they don't need anymore, taking everything in the closet, minimizing it by half, making sure that, the paint is fresh, that the landscaping is fresh, that we take out things that are too personal that, other people are not going to care about, because we're taking that home, which has been, the place where they have, had their family and had their happy memories. And maybe they've got, pets that, that live in the home and have all sorts of toys all over the place. Well, when we're preparing a home for sale, we want to tell a story about the property, how someone might be able to use the home, what's the lifestyle of the community that they're going to be living in. If they are dog people, where are the dog parks? Where are the places they can take their animal to do that? We want to tell a story in real estate on how you might be able to use the home and appeal to a wide audience. So, purging your house, making it sure it looks fresh and pretty and prepared, really can help you maximize the most money. Do you need to put in a whole new kitchen, a whole new bathroom, all new flooring? Don't do any of that until you talk to your real estate agent, because there'll be times when I will come and go, yeah, you don't need to do anything. And then there's other times I will tell people, well, it would show better, you get more money if you did this, this, and this. And at the end of the day, my job is to help my clients be able to achieve their goals. So whether that's price, whether that's time, whether it's, making sure that they can get into their new construction when they want to get into it, there's a strategy that we employ. So sometimes we will do lots of updates. Other times we're just going to edit the house and price it where it needs to be.
Wow, there's a lot of good information in there. Especially, I love the point you made about talking to your real estate agent before you start making those upgrades you think buyers would like, because yeah, like you said, you might be surprised. It might not increase the value of your house, and you might have spent a lot of money that you didn't need to spend. And maybe, a lot of people, when they move into houses, they personalize anyway. They're going to put a new color paint on the wall, or they might change the floor anyway. So that is great advice.
And that's real important, that the seller understands where today's buyer is and what the things that they're looking for in a home. So as you've probably seen, light colors, neutral palettes, farmhouse chic, all that stuff has had its moment. We haven't had a lot of color in real estate. And so in the past, we might have told people, make everything neutral. Well, you guys are a photography company at WindowStill. And what you'll know is, of course, sometimes color, if it's done right, can really make an enhancement to a particular part of the home. So use of color and where you put it is important. And knowing what's trending right now is important.
Right. And I feel like in such a digital age, what's trending can change a little quick, right? You know, I know at least the things that I follow, I'm seeing a lot more color, a lot more maximalism, but that would be a very particular buyer, and that would probably not be like most people. That's just, it hits me because that's my interest.
Exactly. I mean, you want your home to appeal to the widest possible audience, and, making sure that it is fairly neutral, but maybe have some accents of color. Using color in the right places can make a difference in, how you tell that story.
Right. It's so pretty much what people need to know is that they kind of need to depersonalize it a little bit so that potential buyers can personalize it like in their mind.
Yeah, you want them to have a blank canvas, but enough of an interest there to be able to bring them in and get excited about your property. And so that's the tension that we run with that. That's why often we'll use staging and bring professional stagers into our properties to be able to help us tell the story that we need to have to appeal to the widest possible audience.
If your house is very outdated, it's not going to be priced to sell at the top of the market. You do have to put a little bit of money into it to get your investment return. With the flooring, I mean, a coat of paint would go, it changes the way the house looks. Paint and flooring is a big thing. If you didn't have the money to replace the cabinets, put a coat of paint on them. That is one thing. One of my investors, we buy and flip, and I'm gonna say we because he buys it, but I pick the colors out, and it's night and day. Yes, he trusts me, thank goodness. He was actually my first sale when I got into real estate back in 2012. Yes, he was my very first sale, and I bet we have done 20 plus buys and flips. I sold him a commercial building, and he was very hesitant on it. He was like, I don't know, Skylar. And I'm like, listen to me, Shannon, it will pay off. And he's like, I'm so glad. So glad. So when he just went and bought his truck, he was like, I felt like I was out of my comfort zone because you were not sitting there with me when I signed those papers. So, been very blessed with him. We'll buy it, and he's like, all right, you tell me what colors I need to do. But we just listed one on the market last Friday. So, but he went in, we did new cabinets, not new cabinets. He painted the cabinets. He did new countertops, the paint and flooring, and then called it a day, and light fixtures. So as long as it just has the updated feel to it. And if you get in a position where you don't have the funds to do that, offer an allowance. You can speak to your agent and be like, my seller is willing to replace the flooring. He's willing to give a credit. And that can be rolled into your closing cost. Yep.
Yeah. Do you think before kind of starting these projects, someone should consult a real estate agent so that they don't maybe go off the deep end?
Highly, highly suggested. Yes. If you're buying a property, or if a family member, you got a property and you're like, I want to flip it and list it, whoever you're going to list with, bring them over, let them walk through, and you tell them what you're planning on doing. And they'll be like, don't waste your money here. I would do this instead. So definitely 110%, because we see this all day long. And that's one thing with for sale by owners. I can't tell you how many of my friends have called me and be like, hey, what could we list this property at? So I'll give them a seller's CMA. And next thing I know, they've got it listed on the website, on Facebook. I'm selling my property, yada, 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 with what I requested or what I gave them to list at. And they list it for themselves, and I'm very happy for them. But then they'll call me back and be like, Skylar, I ain't getting no traction. What do I need to do? And I'm like, well, it needs to be on the MLS is what it needs to do. So,
right. I've seen that, people selling houses on Facebook, and I'm like, what is this world?
Yeah. Well, the good thing with us, we're part of 4 different MLSs. So we do have that outreach. So when people are searching, it's everywhere. It's not going to just be targeted to the Hinesville area. If we have a Savannah property we're listing, because you do have people that is coming in, retiring, and that agent that they're working with may not be on the Hinesville MLS. So they're not going to see that one. So it does make a big difference with for sale by owners if they are listed with an agent.
first I break down a pricing strategy with them, and essentially it goes a little bit deeper than just what I'm going to price their home at. It's more the strategy behind actually attracting the most amount of buyers possible. So whether that be showing them the stats on where buyers are actually looking in their price point. So for example, if there's a home that's, let's just say, worth 150,000, all of the buyer demand is in that area, then that's probably the best possible scenario for them to list at that price, because everybody that's looking between, let's say, 100 and 200 is specifically looking at the price point of 150. Then those are the sort of conversations we have. So basically, marketing 101 tells you that where all the demand is at is where you should probably be. So like different conversations like that, and really going deeper than just throwing a sign in the yard and expecting or hoping for it to sell. Like really going into the specifics and going deep with them on what everything is like. And this is why I'm pricing it this way. It's not just because of me just pulling up properties. It's like even deeper than that. So different strategies like that is really, and explaining to them what days on market means. Like why does it hurt you if your property's on the market for a really long time versus the homes that sell in the first week? Like what's the difference between those two scenarios, and why does it seem like the people that sell their home right away get more money than you would if your property is sitting on the market for a really long time? So different strategies like that is what I share with them.
Yeah. So can we dig into that a little bit? Like, what is the negative aspect of your house sitting on the market for a long time? Like, why is that a bad thing?
So there's a couple of different reasons, but mainly, I guess, put into a scenario like this, if you and I were, we'll walk through it. If you and I were working together and you were my buyer, and we went to a property that you really, really liked, and let's say it was 350,000, and you walked in, and while we're there, it's first day on the market. There's a couple of agents outside waiting. There's cars lined up on the street. The property's in absolute mint condition. And you tell me you really want it, and you say, Anthony, what do I got to do to get this house? So I would ask you, Kat, well, since it's one day on the market, I mean, what kind of offer do you think we'd have to make on this property? And you probably say, what would you say? Let me ask you.
Oh yeah, no, this is fun. I would think I would have to offer above asking.
Exactly, right? You would think that you had to come really competitive because there's literally people waiting outside to come in when we're done. So same scenario, Kat. 90 days down the line, 60, 90 days down the line, we're in the same property. There's spider webs in the corner. There's tumbleweeds on the street. Nobody's been there for forever. You say, Anthony, I really like it. I don't know. I wonder why it's been on the market so long. And I say, okay, well, Kat, what kind of offer do you think we have to make in this scenario?
Then I could probably offer under.
You would want a deal,
asking,
right?
And yeah.
So it's the same scenario that I talk to my clients about. Is you want to position your home in a way to where you have all the leverage, and when your property's on the market for a really long time, you lose all your leverage.
And now, like on the other hand of that, say I am the seller and I'm not the buyer in this scenario, and my house is on the market for a long time. Like, what can we do to kind of like refresh the situation?
You're saying if you're a seller and the property's been on the market for a long time?
Yeah.
There's a couple of different things you could do. To be honest with you, there's 3 reasons a home's going to sell. It's price, marketing, and condition. So if I'm marketing the property to my 100% ability, and also if the condition of the home is still really good, then obviously it leaves it down to one thing, which would be price. That would be one adjustment. Let's say it's priced well, but the condition's terrible. Well, then we got to figure out what sort of updates have people been leaving us feedback on. And then marketing should never be a problem. So we'll just skip that one. But let's just say I wasn't marketing the home correctly, then obviously that would be the solution with that one. That's really only the 3 ways that a home can sell. And it's really telling, actually. Or let me put it this way. If you list a home and nobody shows up and there's no showings, then it's pretty overpriced. If you list a home and there's a bunch of people showing up, but you're not getting any offers, could maybe be a slight condition problem, or there could be a slight overprice. A very, one small adjustment could make all the difference. And then if you price or if you list a home and everybody's showing up and everybody's offering, you hit it on the money. So that's really how you can tell. So those 2 things that I explained kind of coexist together.
Every client is different. Their financial, situation is different. So our concierge, if they have a lot of equity in the home, then we'll say, you know what, we'll take on the risk and we'll cover all of the expenses. We're able to do that. Sometimes people are like, you know what, I still have to pay that. I don't want to pay out for an entire renovation, right? So we give them different packages of like, you know what, this is lipstick on a pig, right? I don't really like that saying, but it's okay. So you get it, lipstick on a pig. So we take a home and we're not doing a full gut renovation. We're painting the cabinets instead of replacing them, changing the doorknobs, things like that. However, if the home is really dated and they have a ton of equity and they have cash, maybe they want to actually spend the money through our contractors, get the discounted rate, and renovate because they're going to see that return on their investment significantly more. But we're able to do all of those things, absolutely.
And so, because you're doing this all the time, what are the areas that you are seeing the greatest ROI for your sellers?
Paint. Surprisingly, paint. If you have a lot of clients, because I work a lot on the buy side, when they walk into a home and it's customized to that person, either they love or hate it. And that's a risk, right? So we don't like that on the listing side. So a fresh coat of paint it speaks volumes for the house. Fresh coat of paint, and then it comes down to flooring and then bathrooms and kitchen, obviously. Kitchen and bathrooms are a touchy subject because there's a lot of ways we can save money and not redo them fully. Or if they have, again, the money, and it also depends on the neighborhood. So if the comps are all fully renovated, you're going to have to be renovated in order to get that number. If the comps show that most of the homes, like we have a lot of areas that are older areas, all the comps are a little bit dated. That's okay. It's kind of what people expect. So if you renovate too much, you might not get that full return on your investment. So it really depends on location. Every single listing, every single buyer, we go in with a full strategy. We don't just go in blind. We look at the data and are able to see those things. So
I think this will be my final question on this aspect of it. What color paint are we painting?
Oh man, Chantilly lace. We got agreeable gray. We stick to like light grays and whites.
Okay,
So
because I heard brown was and sad beige were coming back. I think sad beige has been around because we've called it sad beige, but
I mean, sad beige doesn't sound very great. So, but a little bit. It depends on location. I think it depends on the style of the home. Gray, tans, browns, things like that kind of soak in light. So if it's not a really bright area, you don't want, and it doesn't have natural light, you don't want to go with a darker color. Even a slightly tan or darker, gray will kind of soak in that light, and we don't want that, right? So it's really going to depend on the home.
Yeah, and you do some really cool stuff on social media. Like one video I saw especially is I think you were selling your friend's house and you and her were sitting down with a glass of wine and she was talking about her house and I was like, "Oh gosh, this is so great because nobody loves the house more than the seller, right?"
Yeah.
Like, and so getting her to speak about it I thought was really unique.
So that was something for me. I feel like a lot of people are like, no, you do not want the sellers to be involved whatsoever. You don't want them to be at showings, different things like that. She's a great friend of mine and she has such a fun personality. I knew that I wanted to use that to sell the home because the reason they're selling in the home isn't because they don't love it and they haven't used it. It's just time for them to move on to a different area. And that's the only reason. So there's no one else that could have spoken better things about this property or had more memories than they've had there. So she was the best one to use as that resource to market that property in a creative way to really get it out there to different people because that listing was on the market before with a different agent. And so we knew that we needed to hit it in a different way creatively to get it in front of different eyes and market it in a different way to make it feel more fresh compared to a stale listing.
I think that's a great idea, especially because video is getting bigger and bigger in real estate. And while like any video is better than no video, suddenly how can you stand out against all of these videos that are starting out where it's, the agent is opening the door and welcome to 123 Main Street, how can you provide something different?
Yeah. And so I think that that's what it really comes down to. Like at the beginning, when real estate video was getting to be popular, like doing the door opening videos were fine. And I think there's still a time and place for a traditional listing video because that hits some people. But I think it's important to get creative in different ways so you can reach more people and get them to stop scrolling. The whole point is you want them to stop, watch your video, learn about the property, share it, comment, reach out to someone they know, tag someone. There's so many different things that can benefit from video, which I think is fantastic, that getting creative in that way can help you stand out with your real estate business, bringing different people to your profile and creating new business, but also doing that justice for your clients and the business that you currently have.
Do you have like a different approach, when you have an ag property that you're dealing with? Because I'm sure it's a different probably type of buyer, right?
Yeah, it is totally. So I think it's just getting creative with the marketing. The approach for listing the property is pretty similar, aside from getting different photos and videos and things done. But I think it comes down to having those connections and that respect with the agents that do a lot of ag, and being knowledgeable in that way when they're asking you questions about wells and water rights and septic and different things like that. You don't want to get caught with your pants down, not knowing like what's going on with different situations. So I think it's having knowledge in that way. And I grew up on a farm, so knowing different things definitely helps, but then also getting very creative in the marketing, because that is something that a lot of ag agents don't do, is get creative. They're so stuck in the ways of doing things a certain way with ag properties because they've been doing it for so long. So that's what I have the most fun with, is getting creative with it and making it stand out compared to the others. And there's so many different ways to do it when it comes to an ag property too, compared to a normal residential sale.
What are some of the different things you do?
So my big ag listing that I did a couple years ago, it's funny because they had all their pistachio trees, and who they sold their pistachio nuts to, she was a Pilates client of mine. And so the company is called Keenan Farms. And so I had her do a cameo in the video saying like, oh, and then they sell the nuts to Keenan Farms. And I'm like, oh, there's Teresa Keenan. And she rolls up in like her Range Rover, and I toss her a bag of nuts, and just had like a creative little cameo that gets people's attention compared to, here's 40 acres of nuts, here's the water depth, whatever. And so there's little ways to do it without doing anything crazy, that really gets it to stand out, which I think is really fun.
Oh, I love that. It's just like slightly scripted,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's still professional. It's nothing crazy that I'm running around in a mascot suit or anything like that, but just something to get people's attention, like, oh, who is that? And what is that tied to? And that just creates more interest in a property, which is a really fun way to do it.
Yeah, you know what, because I think as people we're drawn to stories, right? So
Yes.
you're telling a story.
Yeah. And I think that that's what's important. And some properties are easier to tell stories than others. But when you're able to do that, I feel like it creates more of a relationship with that property, and that people understand that story, enjoy that story, and want to be a part of it, which can help it stand out.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you are following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying this podcast, please feel free to leave us a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.